Hello, everyone. Greetings from InUni, UK. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. My name is Dagina Weatherill, and I'm the Director of Recruitment within InUni, UK and Europe Division, overseeing international students recruitment for a number of our partner universities. Today, I'm extremely excited to talk about our partner university in beautiful Gloucester, Hartpury University, and you can also see Hartpury. Hopefully you can see Hartpury University campus in my background with beautiful greenery, amazing picturesque countryside, and hopefully clear blue skies as well. All right, just a few housekeeping rules before we start. You're all on mute. If you'd like to ask any questions, feel free to do so. Just pop them into the Q&A section. So that's Q&A section rather than chat section, and we will take them from there at the very end of the webinar. The webinar will also be recorded, so we will send the recording out to you as well as a presentation later on in case if you miss anything. Today specifically, we will be covering one of the most important topics for international students. It's compliance journey and compliance updates. As you've probably heard, there are a few updates coming our way from the UKVI, so it's really important to stay on track with those and to make sure that we are all aligned. So I'm excited to be joined by colleagues from Hartpury University. So we have Charlotte Phillips, who is International Compliance and Admissions Manager. Thank you so much for joining us, Charlotte. We also have Saulė, my colleague from InUni team, who is Compliance and Operations Manager. Thank you so much for joining us, Saulė. And we also have our team InUni marketing in the background. So we have Sukanya helping us to run this webinar smoothly. So I guess we've introduced everyone, we've introduced the webinar as well, and you already have the housekeeping rules too. So I really hope you find this webinar, first of all, really useful, and I hope you also get inspired to come and study at Hartpury this September. Thank you. It's over to you, Charlotte.
Thanks, Dagina. Okay, so as Dagina has already said, we're going to take this kind of twofold today between myself and Saulė. So I'm going to kick off today's session. So Kanya, can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so we're going to talk about student visas. Who needs a visa to study in the UK? It is far easier for me to tell you who doesn't, because obviously with recent changes in the UKVI over the last few years, only students who hold a UK or a Republic of Ireland passport, EU passport holders who are settled within the United Kingdom as part of the EU settlement scheme, holders of another UK settlement visa, and ancestry visa holders. Those are the only group of students who do not require a visa to study in the UK. So if you don't have any of those statuses, you're going to need a student visa in order to come and study with us at Hartpury. So, jargon busting. Unconditional offer. What do we mean with an unconditional offer? So when you make an application to Hartpury, we will ask you to provide all of your documents. So if you don't have English language at the time, or if you're still studying your qualification, we may make you an offer that is conditional upon you achieving those qualifications. If you've done everything, that's great. You bypass and go straight to an unconditional offer. If not, once you've made your final qualification, you've got your English language, and you send those documents through to us, and you've met the conditions, that's when your offer becomes unconditional. Now, the important point about that is you have to have an unconditional offer in order to move forward with a CAS application and ultimately a visa application. IELTS, I'm sure a lot of you know, it's the International English Language Testing System. It's become the gold standard as far as the UKVI are concerned in terms of secured English language testing. So you'll hear a lot of people mention IELTS. From our perspective, we always refer to IELTS for any of the secured English language tests, but we'll move on to that in a little while. So the UKVI, what's the UKVI? It is the United Kingdom Visa and Immigration Service, and it is the Department of the Home Office in the United Kingdom that deals specifically with student visas, work visas, and ancestry visas, and so on. So that's their role. So financial requirement is the next point. It's sometimes referred to as maintenance, and you may have heard this bandied about. It is the amount of money that the UKVI want to see that you have access to in order to support yourself in the first year of your study. Again, we'll move on to that a little bit later. So I've mentioned CAS. What's a CAS? It's the confirmation of acceptance for studies. It's an electronic document that allows us as the sponsor to provide all of your information to the UKVI so that they know you're a genuine applicant at Hartpury and that it is our intention to sponsor your visa to come to study in the UK. So finally, visa sponsor. Hartpury is a sponsor of student visas. We also hold a license for skilled workers, as we have a number of lecturers who are from overseas as well. And then we also have another sponsor for international sports people as well. But in this case, we're referring to our student visa sponsor. Next slide, please. Fabulous. So where do you start? The whole process for applying for a student visa is incredibly straightforward, but you just need to get everything in the right order. I know it can be very daunting when you go to apply for a student visa and there's this form and getting this document and that kind of thing. So let's just take it through from left to right. Once you've met the conditions of your offer of place, including IELTS if you need it, you then receive your unconditional offer. You then have to make sure that you have all your documents ready to make your application for your CAS. Now you'll see at the bottom of that is the tuition fee deposit. So the Hartpury tuition fee policy requires that all international students pay 50% of the tuition fees prior to the CAS being issued. It is part of our policy, so I do have to make it clear that that is the requirement to move forward, as it is sometimes a question that we get asked. So once you have all your documents ready, including your receipt for your tuition fee deposit, you can apply to Hartpury for your CAS. Once we've then issued the CAS, you'll start your student visa application and you will then notify us of your visa decision. That's very simplified in the process, but those are basically the steps that you will go through. How do you get your CAS? So once you have your unconditional offer, you'll be able to use the new CAS Shield portal. Now I'm going to fix this with a caveat. We're in the process of onboarding CAS Shield at the moment. So this is the process that you will be going through. So the CAS Shield is a very straightforward system that will allow you to upload copies of all of the documents that we will need and to verify those documents to make sure that we have all of the information that we need to ensure your visa application will be successful. So the kind of documents you're going to be asked for are your passport information page and any current or past visas. It also will ask you if you've had any visa refusals to upload those documents as well. You'll be asked for your IELTS academic test or one of the other approved tests, which we'll come on to in a moment. A TB certificate, if it's required from your country. Copies of your qualification certificates, the receipt, as we've just mentioned, for your tuition fee deposit, and then also the bank statements or financial documents if they are needed by your country. And again, we'll come on to that in a little while. So first of all, who needs to take an English language test? So the main instances when an English language test is not required is if a national comes from a majority English-speaking country. So those countries are listed here. I'm not going to read them all out. I think you have plenty of time to take a look. If your country doesn't appear there, it is likely we will ask you to take an English language test. The other point is if you have an application with us for a postgraduate program and you completed your undergraduate degree in the UK or in one of those majority English-speaking countries, then you would not need IELTS because you meet the test approval already. Similarly, if you have completed an English GCSE at grade 4, grade C or above, or the IB standard at S3 or above, in either in the UK or in one of the other countries, then we will waive the IELTS. And the reason we have to be so stringent with this is it's because something that the UKVI have really focused on, particularly in their recent white paper publication, which we'll come on to a little bit later in the presentation. Who needs a TB certificate? Now, this is a lot to take in. If you are from one of these countries, and there are a huge amount there, so please feel free to come back to the recording in a little while and pause it just to check. If you're resident there or you've been and you're coming to the UK for more than 6 months, you will need to have a tuberculosis test. And there is a very handy link on the UKVI website, which will ask you just to very quickly tell them which country you're from, and it will tell you whether you need to take a TB test. Or, as I said, there is a rather large list there that you can have a look back. But I would imagine there are a number of our students and agents who are watching today to whom this would be applicable. So what happens at a TB test? Again, a question we get asked very, very frequently is it going to hurt? No, it's not. So it's a very simple chest x-ray to check for TB. If the result of the x-ray is not clear, you might be asked to give a sputum sample, so to cough up phlegm from your lungs so that can be tested. It's very rare that part of the test is conducted, but it's something to be aware of. If your test shows that you don't have TB, you will get a certificate that is valid for 6 months, and you will include that as part of your CAS application so we can see that you've undertaken the test. And again, you will use that as part of your visa application to verify that for the UKVI. Now, money. This is the bit that always worries everybody, and please, please don't worry. It is quite a simple process, but it is quite definitive. So you have to ensure that you have everything lined up. And once you have that, the process is quite simple. So essentially, the UKVI needs to see your receipt that you've already paid 50% of your tuition, and then also that you have immediate access to the remaining 50% of the tuition fees, plus the amount of £10,224 to support yourself in your first year of study. Now, this is the bit that normally trips people up, and this is why I want to be very, very clear about this. I mentioned that you must have immediate access to that money. It has to have been in your account for a period of at least the last 28 consecutive days, and the document you provide needs to be less than 31 days old when you provide it. So you need to ensure that the money is there, that you have immediate access, that you've had access to it for 28 days, and that the document is at least within the last month. Okay. The other thing that the UKVI are very much cracking down on as well is to ensure that the documents are valid for you. Okay, so you are entitled to use bank statements that are in your own name as the student or in your parents' name, provided you have a letter of consent for you to use those bank accounts. But you cannot use business accounts. You cannot use another relative's accounts other than your parents or partner. You cannot rely on overdrafts, bitcoins, stocks and shares, pensions, or any other kind of bank account that is not regulated in your country. And one of the things I want to add on here, because although it's not specifically listed, it's inferred in the information, is when you have a savings account that the maturity date is after your date of application. So for example, if you were applying to me for a CAS today and you provided a bank statement that showed the savings were there, but the maturity date for those savings, i.e. the first day you could access those, wasn't until in the future, then you don't have immediate access to that money, and therefore we would not be able to accept those financial documents. So these are just some things to be aware of. Excuse me. So, differential evidence requirement. If you are from one of the countries that is listed, and again, there are quite a few, the UKVI have a differential agreement with each of those countries, which means that when you make your CAS application and then your visa application, you are not immediately required to show financial documents. However, it is always a good idea to still have that evidence to hand as you may still be asked to provide it when you make your visa application. Those are random spot checks to ensure that students coming into the UK have access to the funds to support themselves in their studies. But it's just so you're aware, if you are from one of those countries listed, you may not have to show financial documents as part of your CAS or visa application. The biggest message from me is be prepared. So there is a link on the page here, and that is to take you to the financial evidence that is needed for student and child student route applicants. Bit of a mouthful, I know. But that document is supplementary to the information you have just on the student visa guidance page from the UK government. This document, again, just reiterates all of the things that I've mentioned previously, so do take a look at it. So just moving on to costs. Application fee for a student visa from outside of the United Kingdom is currently £524. It is subject to review. It's already been reviewed once this year, but just to be mindful, that is the cost as at today's date. The other question that we get asked repeatedly is about the healthcare surcharge, sometimes referred to as the immigration healthcare surcharge, or the IHS. It is part of your visa application and you pay it in full at the point of making your visa application. It is a surcharge paid to the UK government that allows the student to access the National Health Service and all of its medical requirements while in the UK. So that allows you to register with a general practitioner for your ongoing medical care. It entitles you to emergency care and hospital treatments as necessary. It enables you to register with a national health dentist whilst in the UK and a national health optician as well, and be subject to the same inclusion as UK residents who are also part of the National Health Service. Now, the cost for it is done on a yearly basis. It very much depends on your age, the course level, how long you're going to be in the UK for. So do take a look. There is a link on the main student visa webpage, which you can click through to. And again, enter that information, how old you are, how long your course is, what course you're studying, and then it will tell you what the cost of your immigration healthcare surcharge is. So, changes to student immigration. As I mentioned, the UKVI have made a number of changes, particularly within the last 18 months and notably within the last 2 months. But first of all, let's talk about the dependent situation. So in January 2024, UKVI immigration rules changed dramatically, and it meant that not all students were entitled to bring a dependent into the UK when they came to study. The change now means that only PhD students and students who are following what the UKVI define as a higher research-based postgraduate degree can apply to bring their dependents into the UK. Anybody else, undergraduate programs, taught graduate, postgraduate programs, are not able to bring dependents into the UK. Now, rather than get bogged down with this here, if you have a specific question about a student's ability to bring a dependent to the UK, please do email me at the end of this session so we can go through that on an individual level. It makes it easier to keep it rolling here. If we can move on. So the white paper, this is the one I've just been talking about. So this came in late May, and these are the most comprehensive changes that the UKVI have made as part of the UKVI's, UK government's determination to reduce net immigration. So the biggest thing we've talked about is English language proficiency for visa applications. So they are looking at the possibility of removing higher education institutions' abilities to make self-assessments. This means that where we talk about English language and the requirement for IELTS or a secured English language test, it makes it more important for us to have that, not just from an academic basis, but from an immigration perspective as well. There's also been a reduction in the graduate route visa. Prior to the white paper, it entitled students who had completed either an undergraduate or postgraduate degree to remain in the UK for a further 2 years as part of their student visa route if they met the entry eligibility criteria. That's now been reduced to 18 months, and that's come in very, very quickly. There's also been the introduction of English language proficiency for any dependent coming into the UK. That's in progress right now. And there's also increased visa monitoring compliance and engagement. So they have reduced the amount of refusals that a visa sponsor can have per year. They've increased enrollment rates, as in how many students per year have to enroll if they have been issued with a CAS, and also course completion rates. So students that come in on a student visa, that they actually come in and complete their course of study. So this has made it very, very difficult for visa sponsors, and it is something that here at Hartpury, as we are a smaller specialist institution, we have to be increasingly aware of the changes and ensure that we are compliant at all times. So the next steps, as I mentioned, we're launching our CAS Shield portal this summer. We will contact you as soon as that goes live. When the documents that you have are in order on CAS Shield, we then be able to issue you with your CAS, and we aim to do that usually within 7 working days. That may be longer during busy periods. Obviously, now we're in July, August. It is an exceptionally busy time for us, so we always appreciate your patience. Once you've got your CAS, as I mentioned, you're ready to go online and begin your visa application. And then the online visa application process itself is very self-explanatory, and you will have everything at your disposal to complete that process. Biggest thing, if you are stuck, please ask. We are very much here to help you at Hartpury as you go through the process. There is no such thing as a silly question. I can guarantee you, if you're having to ask a question, somebody else is going to have that same question too. So it's always better to let us know. And as I mentioned, UKVI get very, very busy in July and August. So there may be delays. At the moment, the student visa processing time is approximately 3 weeks. That may increase during this busy period, and particularly with the new stringent checks that they're going through as well. So just be prepared for that. So just my contact details there, as I mentioned. If you have any questions about anything that I have mentioned here, please do get in touch. And specifically, if you have any questions around anything to do with the white paper or the recent changes with the UKVI, please do reach out. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Charlotte. Really, really useful information. So it's over to you, Saulė, now to present on InUni suitability interviews. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Charlotte, this was really informative. And now I'm going to speak a little bit about what happens before you start your journey to a visa. So I'm going to speak about 2 types of interviews. So a stability interview you will have to take with InUni prior your issuance of CAS. So it's going to be earlier in your student journey. However, bear in mind that everything that I'm going to say about a stability interview, all the do's and don'ts and the advice also fits the UKVI interview if you're invited. There's currently a lot of rumors about the UKVI interview. Students believe that perhaps my friend wasn't invited to an interview, so I will not be invited either, as we're just neighbors and live next to each other. However, bear in mind that anyone can be interviewed. And even if your friend seems like they're in exactly the same circumstances as you and were not interviewed, there's difference in circumstances, difference in location, in even time of the year. And just because somebody else was not invited in an interview, it doesn't mean you will be skipped as well. So it's really important to be prepared when thinking about an interview. Now, while I'm going to speak about the InUni stability interview, bear in mind that this is also a great opportunity for students to also test their preparation and their research for an interview. So what is the stability interview? So the purpose of this interview, and it's a video interview, is to identify suitable candidates for Hartpury specialized programs. And the candidates will be evaluated on their personal attributes, skills, motivation, authenticity, and using this information to make informed admissions decision. Now, what are these? We're going to see in the next slide. So what are the essential factors that we I wouldn't say test, but speak with the student on this interview, and also the same components with the UKVI interview. So what should students really do their research on before going on an interview, and what should they know? So number one is the campus. So where is Hartpury located? And one thing I keep on hearing students doing is they go and they look for the exact address of Hartpury with a postcode and the campus location and so on. When we say campus, it's not enough, and it's not really needed to know the postcode of the campus. What you need to know is where in UK it's located. Would you be able to point it on the map? Do you know how the area looks like? What attracted you to the area? What attracted you to the campus? Why is the campus special? And trust me, Hartpury campus is really special. It's an amazing place to be. If students go online and just check how the campus look like, and it doesn't matter how they do their research, perhaps they check on social media, perhaps on the website, or perhaps even in other sources online, it's absolutely fine, just as long as they understand about the campus and not necessarily the exact address. Living arrangements are also really important. So students should be ready to explain where will they live. For example, is it going to be in student accommodation or their own private accommodation? And they should also know a bit of information about the city and the prices. So one of the biggest mistakes I hear students say during an interview is, I have no idea about accommodation. I look for accommodation when I get a visa. Well, let me break it to you. You might be asked about your accommodation in a visa interview. So thinking about your accommodation only when you get a visa is counterproductive. Even if you're not booking your accommodation yet, you should know about the opportunities of it. You should know what's available and for what prices. Finances. So as Charlotte already went through all the financial slides, how will the financial documents look, who can sponsor, which is really important. But what we need to remember for an interviews, it's not only having all the documents in place and all the financials in place. Students should also be able to speak about finances, speak about their sponsors, understand the amount of money and where does it go? How much are the living expenses? How much are the tuition fees? Now, I understand that for a lot of students, it's going to be parents sponsoring them, and that's absolutely fine. But since the parents are investing in your future, not anyone else's, the students should still be able to speak about how much is it. So an answer to a UKVI officer to us saying that I'm not sure how much my mom's paying, it's not a good answer. Students should understand their finances. At the same time, remember, when speaking about finances, remember to speak in UK pounds and not in your local currency. Because if a UKVI officer asks you to convert the currency on the spot and you don't have your phone with you, you're going to be in trouble. So just remember, speak in UK pounds and not your local currency. Now, details about your course are really important as well. Be prepared to talk about specific course you will be studying, as well as the courses you have completed in the past, so your past experience as well. But when speaking about the course you're about to study, make sure you're not scripted. Make sure that you show your excitement of why you want to study. And I know students are excited to study abroad. We speak with them every day. We know they're excited. Don't be afraid to show that excitement in the interviews. It really, really helps. And the most common question I hear is, what about a course should I learn about? Really? Just go read about the course. If you're a genuine student, you know what excites you about the course and focus on that area. Perhaps it's the modules that are the most interesting, perhaps it's the course structure, or perhaps it's the outcomes of the course. You need to know a little bit of everything, but what you're the most interested about will carry you through it. Remember to check your personal details. This might sound silly, but students do get nervous before interviews. So sometimes students are asked, when did you last graduate? And then it starts, wait, it's now 2025 and it's 2021, it's 2020. I think I graduated in 2019. So just look at the dates when you graduated. I understand if you graduated more than 3 years ago, sometimes you just forget the date. So it's important to remember that when a student is nervous, it's even harder to remember. So just go through your CV, remember when did you graduate and where did you work when, because that's also really important. When thinking about personal details, also think about future plans and how will this course, how will studying at Hartpury help you with your future plans. When the student is asked about the future plans, it's not necessarily where do they see themselves in 10 years. So when it comes to family or friends or country they're going to be living in, but where do you see yourself with your career, and how will Hartpury and this course actually benefit to your career? Also remember about the international travel. You might be asked about previous trips you have taken outside of your country. So if you had any other visas, any other visa refusals, and if your family members have traveled internationally. And living in the UK, last but not least, this covers topics like whether you're bringing any family members, dependents. Again, you bringing dependents will highly be dependent on the course the students have chosen. So do speak with us if you're not sure if you can take dependents. And what are your travel plans for getting to the UK? Now, also, if in any case you are bringing dependents, you should do research about that as well. Now, what are the other things you should be preparing for the stability interview? So as I mentioned, review your application. Look over your application before the interview to refresh your memory of experiences, qualifications, and achievements you listed. Think about your strength, and this is really important. I always say, whenever I'm asked who is the most likely to pass a stability interview or UKVI interview, it's the person who did their own research, is not scripted, and is confident. And how can you get there? Well, first of all, if you're giving a script and you're a student, throw it into the trash, because that's what's going to fail you the interview. And think about what makes you unique, what makes you confident. We're all different. It's a vast, vast world, and everyone knows none two people are actually the same. Bring it to your strength, not as your weakness. And on this, I wanted to actually ask Charlotte, did you ever come across students that are really great and genuine students, but fail an interview just because they got a script from somewhere?
Yep. Unfortunately, it's very much a problem. We do get a number of students who are, as Saulė said, really, really genuine and so enthusiastic. And they're either given a script to read, or they are told to have somebody who's translating into their ears so they can give a better response. It's not necessary, and it's really, really counterproductive, as Saulė has already mentioned. It just gives the opinion that you're not a genuine student, and that really doesn't help you, and it certainly doesn't help us, because if we get you coming through interview and we can tell that you're reading a script, or we can tell that somebody is answering the questions for you, that really doesn't help you. It's not going to get you into Hartpury, and it's certainly not going to get you into the UK as a student visa holder. So you need to be genuine. You need to be in the moment and answering the questions. So that's the really important thing from me.
Thank you, Charlotte, for sharing this experience. It's very helpful. And from my experience as well, we interview many students. We interview hundreds of students a day, a week, thousands a month. And sometimes when a student comes to an interview, they say one sentence and we know they're scripted, because that's a sentence that everyone starts with. It's also the robotic voice. You need to be a really good actor to speak with somebody else's script, and for us not to realize that it's somebody else's script. And that's why actors are paid so much. It's not easy to go by a script as if it's your own words. And it's really, really visible. And from UKVI genuine student rule, we also know that this is #1 reason for student interview rejections. Don't let your students be one of those students rejected just because they got the script from somewhere. And in today's world, where ChatGPT is accessible to all, and so is Google, it sounds so easy to just go on ChatGPT and ask, what will I be asked in UKVI interview and how should I answer? And then they read it and they memorize it. Even if you're not giving the scripts yourselves, protect the students from doing that as well, because the moment they are robotic, that's when they fail. At the same time, when you're speaking with a text from a text you learned by heart, it's easier to forget what you were speaking about. It's easier to get mixed between the sentences. But when you're speaking from a heart, you're actually a lot likely to pass. And I also saw a few transcripts of a UKVI interview where a student answered to a question, oh, I don't know. I'm so sorry. I should have done that research. And that was the most genuine answer, and the student still got a visa rather than speaking of somebody else's words. Now, of course, it's not ideal. Students should do their research, but being scripted is definitely not the way to go. Another thing to remember about a script is that you can prepare to answer 100 questions by a script, and then you're gonna get a question that was in the list of 110 questions and not 100. You can prepare to answer 110 questions and you might get the question 250. Visa officers do not have a script. They think of questions on the spot, and you cannot prepare a script if a UKVI officer doesn't have one. So something to remember as well. Now, also, while preparing for stability interview, show motivation. Don't be afraid to show your enthusiasm. That's definitely not a bad thing to do. Be yourself, really. Be genuine and authentic. So students should really be themselves and shouldn't be put into frames. I get a question all of the time. What does the UKVI officer want to hear from me? I don't know. What do you have to say? They want to hear what you have to say, not something they expect you to say. This is not a test. Neither with suitability interview by InUni, not by UKVI. It's not a test. It's not something you prepare. This is a conversation between two human beings. And one of the advices I'll also give you is test your technology. You don't want poor internet connection or your microphone half working to be a cause of stress. As I'd love to tell you and your students, just don't be stressed, but that doesn't really work. This advice never worked. If anything, advice don't be stressed just makes you more stressed. So I'm just giving you advice of what to do to be less stressed. So test your technology, be yourself, and review your application. And if we go to the next slide, I want to speak a little bit about potential reasons for failing an interview. So where do we see our students failing an interview for UKVI and for InUni? So insufficient research is being number one. So applicants are expected to have a comprehensive understanding of the university, the chosen study program, and the country they plan to study in. Lack of research can give the impression that the applicant is not genuinely interested or committed to the educational journey, leading to an interview fail. And again, I get a lot of questions. Should I learn this by heart or should I learn that by heart? Again, learning anything by heart really gives you the script, and we don't want the script. A genuine student is expected to have not generic answers, and this is the slide as well. They shouldn't be scripted. And again, I'm often asked, what is a generic answer? So I'll give you an example away from the universities. So you're traveling the world and you go to a new country and you book a hotel, and somebody asks you, why did you book this hotel and not the other one? And your answer is, because it has a bed. Why would you book a hotel without a bed? Isn't that the point of a hotel? So that's a generic answer. A generic answer is also an answer where you can insert any university's name, any country's name, and the sentence would still fit. For example, I chose Hartpury because it has a library. I chose University A because it has a library, and I chose University C because it has a library. If every university has a library, it's not an answer you have because you did your research. It's generic. At the same time, I want to study in the United Kingdom because it has a lot of greenery. Well, so does Germany, so does Lithuania, so does Poland, so does Norway, so does Canada, so does US. So is it a good answer? No, because you could insert any name of a university, any name of a country or city, or even a course, and it would fit any other course, university, so on. That means your answer is generic. And if we go to the next slide, I wanted to also very quickly cover frequently asked questions regarding the booking. So this is already no longer for UKVI interviews, but this is for suitability interview by InUni. And also the information fits if your students are invited to the academic interview by Hartpury. So why was my interview canceled or not taking place? Again, a very common question. So these are not the only reasons, but the main reasons we come across. So one of the reasons why the interview is not taking place is because it was booked twice or even more times, and you then didn't read the communication by either us or Hartpury saying that one of your interviews was canceled because, well, you made multiple bookings. So number two is the student has already either passed or failed the stability interview. We see this a lot. A student fails and still tries to book, or even the student passed, but they think they could do better and somehow think that that would help their application. Well, trust me, if you pass your interview, you're already coming for the student journey. You do not need to rebook. Number three, there was not enough information on the booking. For example, on the booking page where the student needs to put the information, they put test instead of a name, and of course the booking would be deleted. And also very important to both InUni and Hartpury interviews is please make sure you're looking at the correct time zone. And how to do that, I'll quickly go into the next slides. So how to book a stability interview. So for an InUni interview, that's the link. We will also reach out to your students when they're ready for an interview. So that will be in their inbox, but I'm keeping this on the PPT as we will share it as well with everyone on this call. Right, so when you click on the link, this is the view you will get. On the left-hand side on the screen, you will choose the date available. You can see that the dates available, and even though the screenshot is from 2021, as you can see, it's still applicable today. The system did not change. The slightly darker numbers are the ones that have availability. You choose, once you choose it on the left, on the right-hand side, you see the times available on that day. And I highlighted in yellow on the bottom of the screen where you choose the time zone you're choosing in. So the moment you can either just read and note the time zone, or you can click on it and change the time zone. We go on the next slide. So after that, you need to provide your details, such as your name, email, phone number. So the first three ones is the name and email of the students. Not the course, not the agent, not InUni, it's the student's name and email address. That's really important to remember. And the email ID that's put there, that's where the students will get the invitations. If the student did not receive an invitation after completing the booking, remember this is an automatic email. It's not an email sent by our team, it's an automatic email. So if you didn't receive it, what do? Number one, check your spam folder. Most of the times you're just going to find it in your spam folder. Other cases, it could be that the email ID was misspelled. So there's just a typo in the email ID. In that case, please do get in touch and we're going to send you an email manually. If you go to the next slide, please. Can you go to the next slide, please? That's, yeah. And after that, you will get a booking confirmation. So with this booking confirmation, you're just able to see that your booking is complete and the automatic email should already been sent to your email ID. Again, check your spam folder and check in the email your booking confirmation. Again, will show you the time zone and with the time you need to join. And this is how the email will look like. Again, a very dummy email. You can see that it's just John Smith and a number, but it will be applicable to you. And if you still cannot find it, reach out to us. And I believe, right, how to join. So after you press on the link, you will see the screen. You do not need to download a Teams app. You can just press continue on this browser. So again, you do not need to download the app, and we actually advise you to go on the browser, make sure your camera is on, make sure the students have their cameras on, make sure there's no background filters, make sure they are on mute, and then they can join the call. And that's it. All right, and how to schedule very quickly. Sorry, I forgot how many slides I really have this time.
Yeah, presentation is going on and on, Saulė.
So very quickly, basically on the next slide. On the email, you will have tiny blue letters that I again highlighted in yellow, change your appointment. And after that, you can either choose, like on the right-hand side of the screen, either reschedule or cancel the bookings. And again, you just go the same as you're booking the first time. And this slide we already went through. Again, you're going to get the same booking confirmation, and you will have to just adjust your details if anything changed. And same as with Charlotte, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My email ID is on the screen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Saulė. Really, really useful information. And I'm sure it's helpful for our attendees as well to prepare for our suitability interviews. And I really enjoyed the comedy element as well, especially example of booking a hotel because there is a bed in it. So that was quite funny. Thank you. So let's see if there are any questions. I can see a few came through, but before we jump into questions, just a reminder to our partners, GAS Gateway portal is still open for students' applications. So please do submit your students' applications at the soonest. We're already in July, so we don't really have that much time left till September. We want to make sure that your students complete their admissions journey as well as receive their CAS and apply for visa in plenty of time. We're seeing a very quick turnaround time in terms of the visas issuance, but as it's becoming a bit busier in summer, UKVI may take time as well for visas. And in some countries, they do actually decide to interview applicants as well. So it's not just suitability interviews you need to be prepared for, you need to be also prepared for potential UKVI interviews. So please ensure your students are well prepared for that. When you do submit your students' applications, do aim to submit a full package of documents. So that includes obviously educational documents, passport, proof of English. If students are yet to take English test, that is okay, but do ensure you submit a statement of purpose, which needs to be unique. Please ensure you do not use AI SOPs because this would not be accepted. References, CVs need to be up to date and also need to be submitted at the initial stage of application, and any study gaps need to be justified. So please ensure if you are preparing for IELTS, that's specified within your CV, or if you've been working or doing maybe some volunteer work or part-time jobs, that's also included within your CV. Okay. And a quick reminder, there are still some scholarships available for business applicants. So it's £2,000 per year for undergraduate applicants applying for business degrees and £2,000 per year for agriculture students. So it's a potential saving of £6,000 for a 3 years bachelor's degree. Hartpury University also offers placements for most of their undergraduate programs. So if you do want to gain some experience while studying in the UK, please do select a program with a placement from the start. So that will also obviously make you eligible for a longer visa, for longer CAS and visa, so that you can then gain experience during your studies in the UK. And even if you change your mind later on, obviously your visa can be adjusted later too, but it's a great way to potentially enhance your soft skills, enhance your CV, and to jump onto career ladder quicker as well. The university has links with over 3,000 employers, and their programs are tailored for potential employers. So it's a great way for you to have that experience whilst actually studying at the university. All right, let's see if there are any questions. And a reminder, as Saulė mentioned, these slots are available for InUni interviews. If you've already submitted your students' applications, you've already received your offer letter, please do book your interviews at the soonest, making sure that students are prepared. If you need some help with mock sessions, my team on the ground is happy to help and support your students to prepare for those interviews. But really important, as Saulė mentioned, that students are not scripted and obviously have their unique answers to those interview questions, because ultimately not only it will help them to pass suitability interview, but also if UKVI interview takes place as well. All right, there are some specific questions which I'm not sure if Charlotte, you would like to take them, or we could possibly take them offline and maybe email them too, because
I think they were the first couple of questions that I've seen in the Q&A are very specific, and
yeah,
I would suggest that they reach out to InUni admissions team in the first instance for both of those, because it may well be that they haven't come through to me at this point. So yeah, definitely Aisha and her team would be the best point of contact for both of those first two questions.
That's a good point. So yes, please, if you could just pass these questions on to your InUni Hartpury representative. So we will take it from there and pass it on to the relevant colleagues within our team, and hopefully we'll be able to support your students further. Does having accommodation secured at the visa application will make it more credible for the applicant?
Yeah, so Saulė touched on this as part of her section. Yes, if you have your accommodation secured, fantastic. It certainly does help. If you don't have your accommodation secured, as Saulė pointed out, having a knowledge of what is available in the market in terms of accommodation is definitely the way to go.
Fantastic, thank you. And just to note, there are a few accommodation options available within Hartpury. Of course, we are encouraging students to book on-campus accommodation. However, if you would like to stay in Gloucester City, or maybe you prefer a bigger city vibe like Birmingham or Bristol, which are 1 hour away, especially if you're a postgraduate applicant, perhaps that is also feasible, or perhaps you have relatives or friends staying in Birmingham and Bristol, you could look into other options as well. But those on-campus accommodation options normally have all bills included, so it's actually more convenient for you. And given that Hartpury is in Gloucester, in beautiful Midlands, and outside a big city like London, it's actually much more affordable than being in London, for instance. Okay, am I eligible for the graduate route visa after completing my degree at Hartpury?
So it very much depends on the way you're completing. So if you're completing at the moment under the current guidance, if you're completing an undergraduate program over the 3 years, yes, you're currently eligible. If you're completing a postgraduate degree as well, you are eligible. It is one thing to mention very much at the moment that obviously it is an element of immigration that is very much under scrutiny. So at the moment, yes, we are able to say that students are able to make those applications. We can't guarantee that in the future, as no educational institution can, because it's very much at the discretion of the UK government as to whether the graduate route visa will remain in place.
Perfect, thank you. Can I travel to the UK before the visa start date mentioned on my vignette?
No, so the start date on your visa should give you 30 days prior to your program beginning. That's the earliest date at which you can enter the UK on your student visa. If you attempted to enter prior to that, you could jeopardize your visa and your future immigration opportunities in the UK. So we would always advise you to travel well within the grounds of the UKVI guidance.
Perfect. Yeah, so the earliest you can arrive in the UK is basically 1 month prior to the start date of your course, which is when your visa starts, and it's mentioned within your actual visa in your passport. And if you do receive your visa, well, on time and in advance before your studies, we actually do encourage students to arrive a bit early. If you would like to explore UK a little bit, especially in summer, it's a great way to visit various places in the UK. And Hartpury is actually surrounded by the area of outstanding natural beauty. Cotswolds is there, so there is lots of things to do, lots of places to see. It's really, really picturesque. Okay. Well, similar to previous question, do I need to show proof of accommodation when applying for my visa?
When applying for your visa, they will ask, it depends again whether you're asked to interview. Again, there's a number of different elements here. So we would always encourage you to have your accommodation sorted. It makes your life an awful lot easier, and particularly with the visa delays, as Dagina has already mentioned. If there are any delays and you're then granted your visa and then you're trying to find accommodation last minute, not the best opportunity and certainly not the best journey for you as a student. So I would definitely say, where possible, have your student accommodation sorted before you make your visa application. And it certainly helps in terms of your suitability should you be called to interview by the UKVI.
That's a really great piece of advice if it's feasible. But in case if students are staying maybe with their relatives or friends, or they're a little bit worried about their visa, it's not compulsory, right? As long as they have sufficient funds on their bank account for their obviously CAS issues and then visa issues, and they have an idea of where they will be staying for accommodation, that kind of should be sufficient, right?
Yeah, that's completely right. Yeah.
And please be confident when you actually answer questions on accommodation in case if you are interviewed by the UKVI, because we don't want you to have a visa rejection because you don't have an idea where you will be staying in the UK. So it's really, really important that you have those details. Okay. Does Hartpury accept fixed deposits, loan letters, or property as a financial evidence?
Okay, so I mentioned this one previously. Fixed deposits, no, because they have a maturity date, which means you don't have immediate access to the funds. This means we couldn't use those as evidence that you are able to support your studies immediately. The same with property. It's something that unless you're going to miraculously be able to sell that property with immediate effect and have the funds available to be able to support your studies, that's not suitable. And that's very much within that link that I suggested you all read. Loan letters, yes. If you have a student loan, there are strict guidelines, again, within that UKVI link. So please do take a look. The loan has to be from a regulated loan company, and there are specific guidelines as to what must be listed in that loan letter in order for it to be accepted by the UKVI. So I really can't stress enough. Do take a look at the guidance and ensure that you are compliant before you start your application.
That's really good advice. Thank you so much, Charlotte. How many undergraduate interviews are there? So for postgraduate, obviously students go through InUni interview. I mean, all applicants go through InUni suitability interview anyway. And then postgraduate applicants also have an academic discussion with Hartpury University academics. What about undergraduate students?
Okay, so whether it's undergraduate or postgraduate, we don't normally interview undergraduate students on an academic basis. But for both undergraduate and postgraduate, particularly as we've mentioned with the new stringency that the UKVI are implementing, particularly for some key areas in the world where there have been issues with immigration, it may be that either we or Enrollee, who operate CashShield, may ask you to an interview just to verify some of your details. And that is to ensure that you are as compliant as you possibly can be and as prepared as you can be for submitting your visa application. So that just sits separately to the InUni suitability interview, and it sits separately to the postgraduate academic interview. It only affects certain countries, and it's an unfortunate title. The UKVI say it's a high-risk country. It does not reflect badly on the country, the individual, or anything of the like, but it's to ensure that you know what is going to be expected of you and that you have access to the information ahead of making your visa application. So we're just trying to make sure that you're successful first time.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Charlotte. Okay. Okay, so the interviews we've already answered. When shall I pay remaining 50% fee? So obviously the initial deposit to secure CAS and the place at the university is 50%. When would students be required to pay outstanding 50% for the first year?
So students have a choice, which we determine as route 1 or route 2. So route 1, you have the option to pay the remaining 50% of the fees prior to enrollment in September, which is nice and easy. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. Route 2 gives students a little more flexibility, and it allows you to set up a recurring payment. So you can either choose to make that 50% payment as 3 installments, which are, let me get this right, October, January, and April, or you can choose 8 installments, and that is from October for the following 8 months. So there's a little bit of flexibility as to what suits you best, and the finance team will take you through that process during the enrollment week.
Great, thank you. All right, that's a simple question. Which current available intake for which we can still submit applications? Well, we're still accepting applications for September 2025. So please do submit your students' applications at the soonest so we can take you to the next stage of the admissions process. And the sooner you submit it, the better, really. MOI, no, Hartpury University does not accept MOI. And as Charlotte highlighted, given that potential UKVI changes would come into effect at some point soon, other universities may as well stop accepting MOI and only accept English test, secure English test potentially. Okay. Well, and the next question is, could you please guide us on whether the changes from the white paper will be implemented from the September or at a later stage?
They're already starting. So in terms of the graduate route visa reduction, that's already come into place. That was done at the end of June, so less than 4 weeks after the white paper was published. In terms of the stringent checks, in terms of basic compliance for visa sponsors, that was brought in with immediate effect. So that's already being checked against anybody who currently sponsors visas. We already have to show that we have a lower refusal rate than less than 2 months ago, and a higher completion rate. And, you know, that those are things that are already in place. In terms of the CAS applications themselves and visa applications, there are now additional information areas that have to be completed to show where students are coming to us via an agent. We have to provide those agent details. That's already come into place, and originally that wasn't set to come in until after September this year. So in terms of the white paper, it is a very serious document and it's already being put into place. What we can't say is whether there will be further additions to the white paper, and bearing in mind how quickly that paper came out from the UK government and the changes were already starting to be implemented, it's very likely to say that the rest of the document will be implemented just as quickly. And the notice period, they don't have to give a notice period. It is a UK government directive and it can come in with immediate effect. So just be very mindful.
Great, thank you. There are a few questions which are the same. So as mentioned earlier, in case if you missed it, if it's a specific case you would like to discuss, please just contact your InUni Hartpury representative and we will take it from there. So we will not go into details, and we've also actually run out of time, but I'll take maybe a couple of more questions. Hartpury has signed an MOU with Oxford International for Pre-Sessional English. So does it mean that Hartpury would now accept Oxford International test as a proof of English for both undergraduate and postgraduate?
Okay, so it's not, it is an interesting one. It's still not our preferred. So we have a number of students who came to us who had lower levels of IELTS, who wanted to improve their level of English, which is why we have the partnership with the Oxford International Digital Institute. The purpose of doing this is to enable students who are just below that IELTS level to get their level of English up to be able to come into one of our programs. So in that instance, the student will have an IELTS. They've then gone on to do a pre-sessional program, and they will then take the Oxford English language test. Once they've done that, if they've increased their English level, we may still ask them to go through a Hartpury interview with us so that we can verify that against our criteria. So it's, yes, we are happy to take students who have gone on to the Oxford International Digital Institute pre-sessional English course, but obviously we still have a copy of their IELTS or their secured English language test that they've used to get onto that program. So it's not simply a question of we're lowering our entry criteria, we're not. We're trying to find a way to make it more accessible, but sticking within those robust requirements from the UKVI perspective.
And just to highlight, thank you, Charlotte, and just to highlight to everyone with the obviously white paper, UKVI changes coming into effect, it's really important, it's even more important than ever to maintain the quality, because even visa refusal rate has been reduced from 10% to 5%. So it's crucial for students to have the right proof of English, the right level of English, not only to pass the interview, not only to get through the visa process as well, but also to cope with the program and not to be withdrawn and to succeed on the course. So we want your students to obviously progress within their studies and to have successful careers afterwards. So please let's ensure that your students are well prepared, and obviously they have an amazing experience at Hartpury. To highlight to everyone, it's a very small university in terms of the international students numbers. So we're still obviously working together, and that's why we have this relationship with the university to expand the number of international students. However, currently, majority of students are, from the UK, South Africa, I understand, and US as well. So it's actually a great way to immerse yourself into a British culture, to make some local friends, to be able to focus on studies, very small class sizes. So you will have a completely different experience. Yes, the entry criteria might be higher than some of the, providers out there. We know that. But it's a completely different experience for international students. So I can't stress it enough. And the quality of applicants we're looking for should be, as I like to say, creme de la creme. So top-notch applicants who are very passionate about their subject areas, who are very passionate to actually pursue studies at Hartpury and to do incredibly well, not just to come to the UK, but actually to come to Hartpury and to succeed there, to integrate into community and to do really, really well once they graduate as well. Okay, very quickly, because we have only a couple of minutes, there is an interesting question I've seen. Please, could you highlight on change of stream opportunities for master's programs, as most of the programs are very niche at the university, so which are not commonly taken in bachelor's in India market, but I would assume it applies to various countries. Because I understand some programs may require, and it depends program by program, they may require specific background, but for other programs, work experience perhaps, or some additional qualifications could also be considered.
Yeah, absolutely, Jagina. So obviously with most of our degrees, because we are a specialist institution and that is our focus. If you come from a country where you don't necessarily have access to a bachelor's degree in, for example, equine management or bioveterinary science, those are two of the common ones. What we'd be looking for is a background in science, because that's where your focus is going to be. So if your education is in a STEM subject, and you have extensive experience or work experience, volunteer experience in the equine field, for example, so you're applying for equine science, you have a degree in science or science related program, and then you have experience in equine, that's certainly something we can consider. And the InUni team are well aware of that and can take you through that process. Obviously, the one subject that we do have is a business degree, which is a general business enterprise management program at undergraduate level. Then obviously that has slightly less of a focus than our specialist subjects, but we always consider sort of relevant qualifications great, but also non-relevant qualifications and experience. But certainly within sort of some of the areas, I'll give you a completely wild example. So if someone's coming to us and they have a degree in commercial business, but then they want to go and do something that's very science-based and animal, and they have no experience, that's where we're going to have an issue, because there's no correlation between the two. So it's just making sure that we can marry those two together and make sure that the student is sure of what they want to do and that they're on the right pathway for them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Charlotte. I can see a few questions around the VC scholarship. Just to highlight, the deadline for VC scholarship has already passed. If you're referring for InUni specific scholarship, yes, we do have one award of £3,000. You would need to submit a personal statement specific to that scholarship. Please submit it via your educational agency if you're a student, or if you are our partner, submit it via GAS Gateway portal, and we will take it from there. Alternatively, if you're facing any technical issues, just contact your representative, one of our team members on the ground, and they would be happy to guide you further. There was also a quick question from an applicant from Afghanistan. I understand the university does accept students from Afghanistan, but of course they need to meet the criteria, and like I said, they need to be prepared not only for the InUni suitability interview but also potential UKVI interviews, because some countries are considered by the UKVI as high risk, so there could be additional checks in place as well.
That's correct.
Perfect. I think we've covered most of the questions related to compliance, at least because I can see there are also other questions. If you do have any questions we haven't covered, please do reach out to our team on the ground. We would be happy to help. Stay tuned. We have more webinars to come. Thank you so much once again, Charlotte and Saulė. Really useful webinar. And just a reminder once again to our partners, the portal is still open. I can't wait to see more applications for Hartpury. And if you're a student, please do provide any outstanding documents and book your interviews as soon as possible. And if you're coming to study at Hartpury this September, we all look forward to welcoming you very, very soon. Thank you so much and have a great day.